Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. I'm sure you'll be absolutely delighted to see the thumbnail already and the fact that I'm back down here at Swift Performance in Aylesbury with my beloved M2 competition behind me. I'm here today because it's going to be the first stage of getting the car back together. And I'm joined with Fabian, who is brand new down here at Swift Performance, but he's not brand new in terms of his engine expertise and engine knowledge. He's actually the fourth full-time member down here at Swift. Thanks for being the first part of the jigsaw of getting my car back together. Do you want to give us a bit of a background as to sort of what you do, where you come from?
I've personally travelled quite a bit throughout the UK, moving myself from Birmingham, from the Isle of Wight to now Aylesbury. My background's mainly been German cars, and the S55 engine has kind of been something that I've been well involved with.
Yep.
So yeah, it's nice to get my hands on another one.
Yeah, well, it's great to have you down here. Obviously, I've known these guys for a few years now, and it's good to have someone like yourself who is a engine specialist. When I was here about a week ago, this was still in pieces, and you sent me a lovely video on Instagram of the engine on this trolley, all assembled, everything's on there, all the fuel injectors are back in, even the turbos are on, it's essentially ready to go. But let's rewind a little bit, because I know the last time you probably saw an update on this car was probably 6 months ago or so. I am partly sorry about that, but at the same time, we got towards the back end of last summer, and we decided to put the car back into storage. I've got a storage unit that I pay for. So we whacked the car without the engine back into storage, and Russ went about sending the head off to a specialist. And that's kind of where we left it. And then I wasn't in a massive rush to get the car or the engine back because I was exceptionally busy at the end of last year. Probably a small factor as to why I've been a bit run down since Christmas, because I just burnt myself out. And I certainly didn't need this back in my life at the back end of last year, but I am ready for it at the start of this track day season here in the UK, especially the sun is starting to shine and the days are getting a little bit longer, and I can't wait to get back in it. What have you done with this, and what has been done with the engine in general? What's been replaced?
Russell stripped the whole engine down, he took the cylinder head off and obviously all out the car. He found that all of the exhaust valves were bent due to the slippage of the crank hub. So therefore, they sent the head away. It had all been pressure tested, new valves in, all new, all seated again, and all rebuilt for me. Fast forward a little while, I've come to it. We've spun the engine upside down, decided to have a look at the bearings. I mean, how many miles has your car done?
It's actually only done 10,000.
10,000 miles.
But relatively hard. But
Relatively hard,
and,
but that's fine. So yeah, we spun it upside down, we took the oil pumps off and we checked the bearings. Bearings looked pretty fine, not a problem in those, we didn't really see any issues, but as we were there, there's no point in just putting them back in, we replaced them.
Yep.
So we replaced them for a set of ACL race bearings, and we actually put ARP rod bolts in as well.
Brilliant.
That was just future-proofing the engine. It wasn't because you're going to go crazy power, because it is manual, and power's not everything. Just out of peace of mind, really.
Sure.
Just so we know that its life going forward can be protected.
Yep. And it's stronger than it was.
And it's stronger than it was.
Yep.
There isn't anything wrong with stock bolts,
Yep.
but while we were there, and really we don't want anything else to go wrong.
Sure.
We never want another issue with this engine, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Well, that comes down to me more.
Yeah, that comes down to the gear changes more.
The operator, and what you're going to do with
And what I'm about to talk about in a
Yeah.
minute. So once we've done the bearings, we put all the new bolts in, it was then time to future-proof the S55's major issue,
Yep.
I believe. So it's the crank hub. Loads of people say that it's a myth, it's not true, it never happens. So we'll just spin this round for you. So the crank hub is in the front of the engine, holding the lower part of the timing chain on. And what we've done is we've gone ahead and put an insane 4-pin crank hub in, and they do an insane job. We've gone ahead and we've drilled the crank in 4 positions, therefore it can't slip again now. There is no way it can.
Yep.
So the engine is now future-proofed for later on, which I personally think is the best thing you can do if you're going to go on track with these.
Yep.
There is a lot of people out on track without them. I personally think it's luck of the draw.
Yep.
And if and when it happens to you, it's unfortunate.
And I got away with it lightly, really, didn't I? I mean,
you very much did,
not
yeah.
labour-wise, but in
No.
the sense that, you know, it could have been much worse. I mean, this could have been in the bin. It could have been.
It could have very much been in the bin. Obviously, with the valves bending, we've had to then measure the tops of the pistons to make sure there's no rod issues.
Yep.
Which we've done. We've looked extensively into the marking on the top of the pistons. There is slight marks from the valves tapping,
Yep.
but it's not to the point where we're concerned. So yeah, the engine as it is, I think it's pretty much bulletproof now.
And in terms of the head, I just want to do a quick shout out because it was sent away to
G&D Motors.
Okay.
G&D Motors in Thurrock, I believe they are. So they overhauled the head for us, and they rebuilt it all together. And all I needed to do pretty much was just pop it on. I needed to put the eccentric shaft springs in, but I believe we had those, so we didn't send it off with them.
Yep.
And yeah, it's a brilliant job that they've done. It's all very clean, all very tidy. I believe they ultrasonic blasted the head.
Okay.
Because it's very, very clean.
Yep.
So that's very nice.
I can't wait to have that back in the car. I think the next stage we will have a little walk over to the car itself and just talk through what your next stage is now that the engine's essentially, because I'm guessing it really just needs to marry up to the gearbox and be plugged in.
Yeah, pretty much. We obviously needed to get it off this stand.
Yep.
We need to put the flywheel and clutch on.
Yep.
Your gearbox will then go on the end, and we will then raise it up into the car. Obviously, we've got the little charge cooler to go on.
Sure.
All of the charge pipes and everything.
The exhaust.
And the exhaust as well. That'll all go on.
Brilliant.
And yeah, hopefully it's just a case of turn the key and we can get you back out on track.
Yes, awesome. Now, unfortunately, neither Fabian or I are Russ or Tim's height, so we're going to kind of be crouching a little bit under here. But I thought it would be interesting to bring you lot under here because before I turn the cameras on, Fabian just explained in layman terms to me how the engine, etc., are going to go back into the car and everything's going to be mated and happily married again, I guess you could say.
Absolutely, yeah. Obviously, Russell pulled the engine out the top. He took bits off to see what was wrong with the car first. Obviously, he didn't know at that point he was going to be taking the engine out. So he was taking bit by bit off to ascertain what the issue was. I now have the engine out and ready to put it back in. I'm going to be removing this whole subframe.
Which is this
whole
alley bit here.
aluminium
Okay.
piece. So we're going to be removing all of that. We'll take all the arms off so they're out of the way. We're going to be putting it on a big bench, trolley bench, with the engine on top of the subframe. We'll make the gearbox onto the engine when we take it off here.
So let's wheel this over. So that's essentially there. Gearbox is going to be off the back of it here, right?
Yeah, gearbox will be off the back here.
Yep.
And it'll all be on the trolley with the subframe underneath.
Yep.
And then I will raise the whole lot up into the car and then tighten the subframe in and tighten the rear gearbox mount in. So therefore, we don't have to try and get it over the top, worry about damaging the bumper or anything. We can just push it all straight up and in and basically plug fuel lines in, give it some power.
Okay, so that's the main power?
That's the main,
that's
the main power from the body to the engine, and some ECU connectors to the body, and then we can turn the key.
Unbelievable. That's just like that. I mean, basically, I could do that.
Just like that.
Yeah, I could do that easily. And in terms of what we're looking at up here, just a quick. So is that the electric steering pump?
Electric steering rack.
Yeah.
Obviously, steering rack itself, the anti-roll bar.
Yeah.
Your front oil cooler.
Sure.
Front oil cooler. Your oil cooler.
I need to get something. I know there's some aftermarket protectors on those, isn't there?
Yeah, you can get deflectors on them.
Yeah.
Protect it slightly. Obviously, if we're going to be cutting some grass like Tim does, we need to protect that. But I'm sure you're more skilled than that.
Wow. Yeah.
But we can get some sort of protector on there.
Yep.
Obviously, your exhaust is going to get new gaskets on the front anyway.
Sure.
And yeah,
all the rest of it.
All the rest of it's quite simple.
I'm also looking at getting the underneath and all of these parts in here, especially as the engine's out, cleaned via dry ice. It will essentially, hopefully, bring back some of the alloy parts and stuff to looking really new. Car's not in too much of a state, as we talked about earlier on. It's only done 10,000 miles, but it has done a couple of UK winters, which means rain, salt, and all the rest of the grime that we get. So if you've ever put your head under a UK car that's done a couple of winters, it will look a little bit brown and a little bit corroded. It's nowhere near at the point that I need to be worried about anything, but at the same time as we've got the engine out and stuff, it would be really nice to brighten up a few bits under here.
Freshen it up.
Freshen it up, yeah, freshen the car up. So keep an eye out for that. I'm not going to spoil, not that it's going to be a massive surprise, what we decided to do in terms of the actual manual box. I'm not putting a DCT in it, no. I am going to stick with the manual box because, yeah, my track record, excuse the pun, has been pretty good with the manual box up until that dreaded day. So, and I think this is always going to be my baby. Fabian is a big fan of high power and especially getting a lot of power out of S55s, etc. It was one of the first questions he asked me before he put it all back together again was, how much power are you planning on doing? Obviously, being a manual, and I talk about it a lot on my channel, as a car that's still road legal and will be used a lot on the road, for me, 450 horsepower is about perfect. But I know these are capable with the right people behind them and the right parts of producing, well over 600-700 horsepower.
Yeah, 600-700 horsepower is a walk in the park for these now.
Yeah.
Obviously, because you've got the manual box and its power on track isn't absolutely everything.
No.
So yeah, we're not going to be going any more power.
Yep.
So just longevity.
That's it, longevity. Guys, I'm going to end the video here because I think we've covered a lot and enough for you lot to digest and me to go home and digest. I'm coming back here next week to do a few more bits, but I hope you're as excited as I am. Massive, huge thanks to Fabian for coming on camera. It's great to, like I said, it's awesome. The team is awesome down here now. Thanks a lot for watching. There'll always be a link to Swift Performance in the description below. They obviously have a fantastic Instagram, which Josh is all over, so keep an eye out on that for their current stuff, because there's just always things going on in here. And I'll see you at another video very, very soon. Cheers. Is that the most technical tool you've got here? Yeah. Yeah.
G81.
Yeah. My grey one, obviously, because they don't know about my green one yet.